Hi guys, welcome to the penetration testing with FIXITGEARWARE-SECURITY in the month of August 2025. On today's training, we'll be focused more on reconnaissance with the sole purpose of exposing newbies and penetration testers alike the combination skill set on how to perform reconnaissance using a well-known tool that is also popular in the industry. So the purpose of this training basically is one, to expose you on how to use this tool efficiently or effectively when performing reconnaissance, and secondly, using the free version of this tool to teach newbies who are financially incapable to pay for subscription services when they use this tool to perform reconnaissance. As we all know that not everyone has the financial strength to pay for softwares that request for a fee, and newbies always find this difficult when they use this tool. They tend to say they are not able to know how to start in terms of getting information or gathering information on a target before venturing into pen testing or hunting for bugs for that specific target. So with that complaints we've read via various social platforms, seeing that this is a skill set that is lacking and professionals alike are just not exposing the ins and outs of this concept, we decided to introduce Recon using this tool today, and of course a separate account which is a free version to show users who do not have the financial capabilities or who cannot provide the subscription tier of this tool how they can use this tool efficiently and of course gather information when hunting for bugs or carrying out penetration testing activities. So by the end of today's training, we believe that whatever information we'll be able to put out here will be very useful to not just newbies or those who are not financially capable, but also for professional cybersecurity red teamers or penetration testers who are trying to understand the concept of using this tool to perform reconnaissance. Will be able to be exposed to this concept we are going to unveil today, and of course use this concept and venture further in performing more research on how they can level up their reconnaissance process or concept when performing penetration testing activities. So with that being said, let's get started. So today's lab is going to be a practical lab on reconnaissance, as we previously said. And the reconnaissance training is going to be a basic reconnaissance with a free Shodan account. So Shodan is a very popular tool with more leverage or more benefits when compared to Google, because the developer of that tool, or let's say the search engine, built that platform with the concept of technicalities when it comes to infrastructures and hardware components. So today we will be showing you how to use the free version, which has a lot of limitations, or should we say a few limitations, when being used to perform reconnaissance. So the purpose is that we want to use this free version to show you how you can also leverage it like as if you're using a paid version of the tool to get more information about a specific target which you intend to hunt on their programs on various bug bounty platforms. So to understand the training we're going to do today, the prerequisites that you need to have is that you first of all have to understand the nature of the service you want to pen test or hunt. So why is this necessary, or why is this essential? Is because when it comes to penetration testing, information gathering is not actually a bug, or should we say it's not actually a vulnerability, but how you can exploit this information gathered to gain initial foothold, or should we say internal access to organization resources, which by rights you are not authorized to do so. Okay, so if you do not have any basic knowledge on penetration testing or hacking certain services, then please you should get a book or go through our various posts on X or LinkedIn to see where we talked about red teaming and bug bounty to understand what we are trying to convey in this video today. Secondly, which no penetration testers always say, I wouldn't say they don't know what they're doing, but most times it's putting out chunks of information to create more content, or should we say drag content for a longer period of time without going straight to the point. But today we're going to expose you why you should know this. Second prerequisite is that you have to understand the organization business geolocations. So when we talk about the organization business geolocations, various organizations have business in Africa, they have business in Europe, they have business in Australia, they have business in any other part of the world. And these geolocations have various services they are running, okay? So it is important that before you perform reconnaissance on a target, or let's say you want to gather information about an organization, you should first of all understand the various geolocations where their business is being run from or designated at, because these geolocations are very important and they will also be of good value when you try to perform reconnaissance using Shodan. Okay, so if you have these two prerequisites, then congratulations. Whatever we're going to explain here today is very easy for you. But if you do not have it, do not worry. When our paid course for advanced recon comes out, you're going to learn a lot of things and how you can track these various business geolocations in the various methods we are going to show you in our paid courses when it comes out. Okay, so but for today, we want to show you the basic concept on how you can use a free version of Shodan and of course perform recon activities. So before we venture into the training for the day, let's first of all understand the concept of Shodan.io. So by definition, we believe Shodan, from experience as well, has a way of performing searches using enhanced functionalities. So these functionalities, as we all know, are based on indexes of internet-facing infrastructures belonging to various organizations. So these infrastructures are operational using what we call the internet protocol, known as the IP addresses. So depending on the services that these IP addresses are running, you'll be able to see the services when using Shodan advanced search engine to gather information about specific organizations. Okay, now one more advanced feature, also actually of numerous advanced features that Shodan has, is that you can also use Shodan to gather information about operating systems. So when we talk about operating system, we have the Windows, we have the XP, we have the Ubuntu, we have the various types of, or should we say flavors of operating systems. Shodan has that capabilities of also revealing those informations as long as they are exposed on the public internet. And lastly, the various services that runs on them. So when we talk about services, we have the FTP, we have the SSH, we have the SMB, we have the MongoDB and Microsoft IIS servers and so on. So these are various services that can be running on a specific operating system, which is tied to a series of IP address, or let's say a range of IP addresses. So that's basically the power of Shodan in summary. Okay. Now, additional advanced feature that makes Shodan a very powerful tool is that unlike the traditional Google search engine, which and you can use via Dorking to search information about an organization using what we know as Google Dorking commands, Shodan has a more advanced feature that pulls information such as autonomous sequence numbers and the various product types that these organizations are running. Okay, so these ASNs are like special range of numbers that has been assigned or registered to an organization. So these numbers are very special because with those numbers, you can now try to use Nmap tool to see how you can exploit or to see what vulnerabilities exist in the infrastructure of that organization. And of course, find a way to exploit those services or those vulnerable components on that specific ASN numbers. So with this short summary of what Shodan is, you've been able to grasp what Shodan is all about and what makes it different from using Google search engine or any other search engine you know or you're familiar with that is not as enhanced as Shodan.io. Now let's move on to the most important topic before we start running the slide. So from us at FIXITGEARWARE-SECURITY, we have various tiers of diagrams on the concept of using Shodan. Okay, so this is just a free one, or should we say the basic tree diagram, which we have created just for this free training. For advanced training on recon and AI concept, we have a robust diagram, and that diagram is going to show you how you can use Shodan in depth to perform reconnaissance like no other. Okay, so this basic tree diagram here is basically for hackers, penetration testers, and bug bounty hunters who are just getting started. So how are they able to use effectively Shodan docking commands? The four concepts which we believe and know that is very important when you want to perform Shodan docking is that, first of all, you have to know in depth the organization, the nature of their business, and what they do. Okay, so this is very important because when you're going to be docking, you would be combining docking protocols or commands via Shodan, and it is very important that you narrow down the information you want to be gathering about a specific organization or target, and not just wondering about pulling out other informations that are not necessarily interesting or important for the specific program you're hunting for. Okay, secondly, you have to know the geolocations. Okay, so for geolocations, you want to know the various regions where this business are designated or operating from. So this is very important because let's say you're hacking a target that is based in America or the United States. They have a range of IP they use there, right? But none of them are vulnerable. However, when you try to hack the target business that is running in New Zealand or let's say in Australia, you notice that certain range of the IPs are vulnerable or are exposed to the public internet. Okay, now this is where it gets tricky. You might successfully exploit the services running in New Zealand or Australia and get a very juicy information and go back to the geolocation in US and use those same information to log into the administrative account that is running in the US region. Yes, it is possible because large corporations or let's say big organizations, when they provision infrastructure configurations and settings such as email addresses, username and password, if the user has an enhanced capabilities or is a super user, it means they can operate on regional level. So you can log in to an account in Australia and move into the US and use that same account to log into the admin panel of the US region. So this is why geolocation is very important. So you have to know how to research about that, and this will also show you in our advanced course and training when it comes to reconnaissance when we publish them. Okay, it's not the traditional lookup of geolocations that you all know. There are various ways you can look up for geolocations which has not been done, which we'll be showing you. Now for services, services is common. Everyone knows about services. When we talk about services, we're talking about port numbers and the services that are running them. Okay, so when we talk about 21, you know, we're talking about the protocol TCP, and that is running the file transfer protocol service for file transfer. Okay, so sometimes this protocol is not properly configured where you can log in via anonymous or using weak credentials such as weak passwords and usernames. Okay, and not to neglect the fact that you can also brute force those credentials running on the services as well. So you have to have a proper knowledge or idea of the services which you want to, exploit, or let's say you're good at in exploiting before performing this docking concept. And last but not the least is your docking concept. So when we talk about docking concept, it's a combination of docking commands or docking strategy when performing reconnaissance using Shodan.io. Okay, so this is just the basic tree diagram which we want to show you today, and we're going to be employing these various concepts today to show you how you can leverage this free version of this tool as a cybersecurity researcher who is not financially stable to get started with bug bounty or penetration testing activities. So with that being said, let's now go onto the lab proper and demonstrate the event for today. So over here we have our Shodan tool already running. Okay, you can see histories of comments we've been running here. Okay, but let's start afresh. For example, let's say we want to search for, let's say, a service known as Redis. Okay, now Shodan has what we call the filters. Okay, so you can click on view all. These are common filters. Then for the ones that are red, they are actually restricted. Okay, you can see there's an explanation. Okay, so you have to have a higher API plans for you to use certain of these features. Okay, but not to worry, it doesn't matter, just ignore this. Okay, then we go back to Shodan. Let's say we want to hack a service such as Redis. The first thing we can say, we just say product colon, then we say Redis, and we hit enter. Now once we hit enter, all products belonging to organizations running on Redis will be displayed to us. So now, why are we using Redis? Let's say we want to hack Redis. Okay, we just have to search it and of course put the product name, which is Redis, and everything that has to do with Redis will be pulled out to us. Okay, now when you're searching for various concepts using your docking commands in Shodan, these are the things that are very important for you to know. Okay, first of all, the IP address. Okay, then you look at this. Okay, it tells you if this requires an authentication or not. Okay, then you look at the subdomain. In some organizations, you might not be able to see the subdomain, but in most organizations, you'll be able to see the subdomain like this. Okay, why is this important? Is that subdomains are also, quite interesting for you to get more information about a target. Okay, then let's say we are talking about the structure of the Redis service we are trying to hack. This is where this is important. Okay, now here you can see the server information. It tells us that this is running this version of Redis. Okay, so let's say we want to exploit this version. We just check the CVE. If this belongs to the organization we want to pen test or hunt for bugs. Then this is another important part. Okay, we want to check about the OS. Okay, why is this very important? Is that when you're pen testing for a service, you might not find a vulnerable application or services running, but let's say the operating system, the version is running, is very vulnerable. Okay, you can ignore this and start working with this. This is why it's very important. Okay, now aside that, this is where you now have to further look, which is the country. You can see here we have this services. It's in the United States and it belongs to this organization. So let's say we want to be sure that this information is correct. We just come here, we copy this, we come to our terminal, and we just say who is, and we hit enter. Now let's see the organization name. So the organization is PEC Tech Inc. And if we come here, it's tech. Okay. Now the IP address starts from 137.175.57.170. And here the WHOIS information has given us the CIDR, which is the range of the IP address. And you can see we have 175.0.0. But the IP here we have is 57.170. Okay. So it means any IP range from here to here belongs to the organization. Okay. Of course, you should know how to calculate, subnet max and so on how to calculate the octet of the IP address. So once you're able to understand how to do that, you know what is the next IP address. You can decide to use 0.1, 0.2, in this range, but it mustn't exceed this. So I think it should stop at 254, the last one, before we get to 255. Okay. So these are very, very important for you to understand. Okay. Now, once you're able to get those IP address, you can now fire up your Nmap and maybe scan the list of IP address to see the various services running on this range of IP addresses, owned by the organization. That is one step. Now, let's say we want to talk to the organization specifically we want to hack. Let's say we want to hack Google. So we put org and we say Google and we hit enter. So basically we are saying, look for the product Redis that belongs to the organization Google. And as you can see, it has listed for Google, it has listed for Google, it has listed for Singapore, it has listed for United States, it has listed for United Kingdom, it has listed for Belgium, it has listed for Belgium, Netherlands, India. Okay. Now I think for this we have only 2 pages we can scan. Okay. And you can see it's Netherlands, India, Belgium, United States, Indonesia, Belgium, United States, Singapore, Canada, Japan. So if we try to click next, you can see we're using a free membership. Okay. But now we have narrowed down to just the organization. We're able to pull everything that is owned by Google. Now, this is another information you should always look out for. You can see here, it's saying that it's the cloud. Here it's the cloud. Here is the cloud. So in most cases, it's going to tell you that it's EOL OS cloud. And of course, tells you about if it's compromised or not. Okay, so these are the things you need to look out for. Now, these are very important because when you're hacking with Shodan, if you don't strategize the concept of your search or your docking concept, you tend to find informations that are not very important. Okay, like you've heard certain offensive security experts will say they've been trying to Google or they've been trying to dock by Shodan, and they are surprised that most organizations left their services open to the public internet. Okay, that is them straying away from the actual goal, which is of course the target they want to hack. Okay, so learn to stick to the target. Don't confuse yourself, and especially if you're running the free tool, okay, you have a limited access or limited concept of activities you can perform using this tool. So learn to stick with it, and of course use it to perform your recon activities efficiently without having any difficulties to finding vulnerable services that belongs to the target which you're trying to hack. Now, let's now introduce another concept using Shodan. Previously, we said we want to hack for Redis, right? Now, let's go back and say we want to hack for MongoDB. So we say MongoDB, right? Did we get it? Okay, maybe correct or not. Then we say services. Now, most people make mistakes. When they specify the product, they tend to put, let's say, services port 21, 22. No. Okay. When you talk about a product and you want to specify the port service, make sure you specify the port service that is technically associated with that product. So for example, when we talk about MongoDB, we should know that MongoDB has a port of 27017, if I'm not wrong. Okay. So if I want to specify the port, I'll just say port 27017. Okay, now hit enter, and you can see all the databases. You can see it's telling us that it's a cloud and it's a database. Okay, and you can see the HTTP status 200. Okay, so everything that has to do with MongoDB will be displayed to us. So here we can see that we have Italy, we have the United States, 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 we have China, we have the United States, China, and you can see authentication partially enabled. Okay, you can see there's some sort of API call. Okay, now let's just click this. Okay, I'll show you something. And you can see there's an IP address. It looks like you are trying to access MongoDB over HTTP on the native driver port. Okay, now seeing this, if you know how to hack MongoDB, you just have to spawn your CLI, which is your command line interface, and start, using Nmap to scan and see what we can achieve. Okay, so this is another interesting facts you should be looking out for when you're trying to exploit a target. Anything that points to this, it means you can access this to a URL path, or let's say a URL link on the target. Now, let's say we're not interested in the various region where the business runs, its services or their clientele belongs. We just want to focus in the US. We just come here and we say country. So we put in double quotes, we say US, and we hit enter. Good. Now you can see our result has been refined. First of all, the product we are trying to search is MongoDB, and the service port for this product is 27017, and the country we want to be focused on is the United States. Okay, so if we scroll down, you can see every of the result we have, is the United States, and you can see it also tells us the version. Okay, running. Okay, this is the server information, and if we click next, you can see, okay, there is no other country that has been shown to us except the United States. Okay, so things like this are the basic concept of searching using Dorking commands on Shodan. Now let's say we want to pen test for products like Swagger UI. Okay, so basically those are HTTP title. Okay, so we can say http.title. Okay, then remember this: whenever you're writing services that are compound words, like they are spelled with a space in between them, you have to put them in quotes. Okay, so you say Swagger, and you say UI. So we hit enter. Sorry, we'll have an error because we specified a port. So we remove this and we hit enter. So there is nothing, right? Okay, let's see the title, right? Where is the mistake? Sorry, it's the spacing. Okay, so this is one thing that is very important as well. When you're typing these commands, you should be very careful on the spacing between them. Okay, so as you can see, when we type the HTTP title and we say Swagger UI, you can see a lot of information. Okay, and this tells us a Python, it's running in the background of this program. Okay, so let's do something very interesting. We can just click on this. Okay, so you can see, okay, if you're very good at hacking APIs and Swagger UIs, you can look into this. Okay, you can see quite a whole lot of information. Okay, we go back here, we click on this. Yep, so you can see. Okay, now let's go back to Shodan. Let me show you one thing that's very interesting. Now, under the Swagger UI, you can see we have an IP address. Okay, we also have an EC2 instance. So it's telling us where this instance is running from. It's Amazon Technologies, and EC2 US is 2. So it's running is 2. Now here, the server is Nginx. Okay, but we don't have any further information what version of Nginx is running. So you should also look out for this. Okay, it's very important to look out for this because most organizations will reveal the version of the Nginx, and you have to now look out for this version if it's vulnerable and find a way to exploit them. Okay, now another interesting information you should also look out for is SSL certificate. Okay, so you can see if it's expired or not, and the versions that is supported. Here it is telling us that they're using 1.2 and 1.3. Okay, and the organization's name is Envoy. Okay, so learn how to use this, because as you get more technical in your recon activities, without understanding the concept of what you're looking for, you will not be able to leverage the power of Shodan effectively to gather information. Okay, now here you can see the list of countries where this was pulled out from. So in US alone, we have over 13,000 Swagger UIs. So if the organization you're testing is a prominent organization, well known, so definitely you can now put the org. Let's say, for example, let's say we're putting org, let's say Facebook. Let's see if we can get anything on Facebook. Okay, none. So let's say Google. Okay, so you can see we have for Google. Okay, now you can click more here, so you can see the various products that are running this. So here Nginx is running with Jetty, Apache, Microsoft IIS, Node.js, Kestrel, OpenResty, and ECTO service mesh. Okay, so this is very important that you know this. Okay, and for the organizations, we have only Google and Asia Pacific and Fiber Inc. So here we have in the LLC, we have over 13,000 running the services, and here we have only 521. Now, because we said only Google, okay, but if we remove the organization here and we just hit enter, you can see we have both Amazon, right? And if we click more here, you can see the various organizations running it and the number of this Swagger UI they own here. So these guys own over 4,000 plus. And over here, some of these organizations own like 12, 10. Aruba owns like how many? Let's see. Aruba owns like 9 of this. Okay. So get to know how to use this. And of course, learn how you can leverage the power of this free version of this tool to gather information. Okay. And if you look further, you can see we have Emirates. Okay. Emirates Telecommunications also uses 5 of these. Okay. So these are very important that you know, because without a proper knowledge, there is no way you can, there's no way you can use this tool efficiently to gather information about your target. Now, lastly, let's do something very interesting. Okay. Let's say we want to check for services that has the various port running, let's say like port 21, 22. Okay. Now we come over here. Okay. Let's do something. We'll say product. Let's say SSH. Okay. Now you can see here the various SSH that is running. Okay. Now let's say China tops the list, and followed by the United States, United Kingdom, Poland, and Russia Federation. Okay. So let's say we want to check for country. Let's say, remember, compound weights have to be in quotes. We'll say United Kingdom. Okay. Product SSH. Okay. Let's try something first. Go back. Okay, let's try the UK. Okay, so it's not working. Okay, let's see. So we click United Kingdom. Good. So here you can see we have a list of SSH services running from the UK. Okay. So you can see the fingerprinting, you can see the keys, and you can see the organizations they belong to. Okay. So this is very important also, like when you're trying to hack services, that you understand the nature of the services you're hacking. Okay. And as you can see here, we were trying to use the United Kingdom, but when we clicked on the country, it tells us GB. Okay. So notice this, that whenever you're trying to, let's say you try to put the country name and it's not, displaying the result, try to get the country code. So let's say for Australia, we know Australia to be AU. Okay. So let's try AU. Good. Now you can see Australia appeared, right? Let's try AF, right? Good. So this is Afghanistan. Okay. Let's say we try NZ, New Zealand. Okay. And we do. Good. So you can see sometimes when you type the country name and it's not working, try and use the country code. So if it's NZ, you put NZ. If it's Australia, you put AU. If it's US, you put US, and so on. Okay. So this will populate the result, and you can, scan through to see the various services that belongs to the products you're trying to, search on, and of course find a way to exploit them. Okay. So before we round up this training, let's say we say port. Let's change something. Let's say we say port 21. Just say by port. Sorry, 21, and we hit enter. You can see. So now it's listing FTP, right? And it's telling us, the software on the FTP server. So we have FileZilla and we have this version. Okay. And to get more information on how to use FileZilla on this server, you should visit this website. Okay. And it tells us, like, these are the information we are going to see. If we successfully log in, we should see this. And if the login is incorrect, okay, good, then it tells us the FileZilla self-sign code. You can see we have this, and you have size, scope, CWD, and of course it's using the obsolete version of TLS, version 1.2. Okay, most users have migrated to 1.3. Okay, you can see other information as well here. Okay, and as you go further, you can see more information as well. Okay, so understand how to search using services, which is of course specifying the port number to pen test the target or perform recon activities to get resources that belongs to an organization using the Shodan tool. Now let's say we use port 445. You can see, so these are SMB status. So you can see for authentication here it's enabled. Here it tells us this is vulnerable. So let's say this is an organization we are trying to hack, or let's say we are participating in their bug program. We can now take this IP and look for information using Nmap 2 on the SMB version and how we can exploit it. And of course, you can see Shodan already told us using the SMB version 3, we can perform RCE, which is the remote code execution. So understanding this various concepts is very important. Okay. Now, another thing we would love to share with you is that be very mindful that most of the services also can also be honeypots, okay, created by these organizations to understand the way attackers, try to exploit their infrastructure. And the purpose is that they want to make sure that they try to block these attacks, on their real infrastructure before it happens. Okay. So that's why it's very important to be very mindful of knowing how you exploit these various targets and not just wasting your time on a dead end. Okay. And if you know how to enumerate SMB shares, you can see right here, it tells us that this is disabled, so you don't need to provide credentials to have access to the SMB. And it's running on SMB version 1, and you can see it's running Samba version this, and you can see the SMB shares enumerated by default. Okay, so this is system default shares. So old source, Hebron, IPCS. So if you know how to enumerate SMB, and of course hack SMB shares to navigate to the various shares, logging in without credentials, and should know, of course you should know how to do this. Quite easy. SMB shares is one of the easiest services to exploit. Okay, you have to enumerate the shares and credentials like usernames that exist, and use that username to log in, and of course navigate to find out more information that are stored. And if there's a way you can push in a file, then you push in a file that is capable of performing reverse shell on your machine, and from there you can try to exploit more informations that you want to exploit on that server that is running the SMB. Okay, so you can see more informations about here. You can see users, we have for lay, we have for land corp staff. So, and you can see authentication is also disabled, so we can log into this various SMB and see what we can exploit. Okay, so that's all for this basic training. Okay, there is more we want to show you, which has to do with advanced combinations of commands and docking concepts when you're using Shodan to hack. Okay, and this will be putting into good use and effective concept demonstration when we launch our paid AI course, and advanced recon concept when performing docking and information gathering using Shodan, using Google, and other special tools which will be unveiling as well. Okay, so hopefully you can use this basic concept to try to research more on targets whenever you have them as part of the programs you're participating when it comes to bug bounty or penetration testing. And by so doing, you should be able to get more information. You can try to see if you can exploit and of course hack those targets and report to the appropriate authorities. So there is more we want to do, but you should know these ones are basic, like getting the hash, getting the ASN. So those are basic commands. But once again, in our advanced course, we want to show you how you can integrate this command in a very complex way to exploit a target. Okay, not just saying ASN like that. No, we want to show you how you can combine both services, ASN, and so many other protocol with its concept to get more or narrow down the information you gather about a specific target you're pen testing or hacking. Okay, so that will be all for this week on this training. We hope that you can put this information into good use. Please refrain from trying to use this to perform malicious activities, because if you do and you're caught up with the law, FIXITGEARWARE-SECURITY will not be held responsible for any responsibilities you'll be held responsible for in the course of your actions. Okay, so please be very careful, be mindful of what you do with these informations. Try to use them judiciously. And of course, this is just an introduction and a basic training to Shodan and how you can apply your mindset to specify certain such concept using this tool. Once again, there is more we want to show you on how you can search for various versions of specific products to see which one is running on the target infrastructure, and of course how we can find those versions, find the proof of concept out there that exists on the public internet, and using that proof of concept to exploit the various IPs that are associated with that specific product version which we have gathered using Shodan. So that will be all for this week. We want to properly shout out to those who are taking their time to support us by subscribing. Yes, we are seeing the numbers. We've crossed over 300 plus right now, and we're grateful for your support. And please do be patient with us. We made a lot of promises, and you can see we are gradually keeping those promises. It's not been easy because we have other things we do, and we want to teach you and we want to show you the ins and outs, and that comes with a proper strategy in terms of the content we create and the information we put out there. Okay, because most creators out there are always copying one another. It's like somebody puts out something, somebody else copies it and modifies it and put it out. So there's nothing new. Okay, that's the reason why we're taking this approach. We take our time to get something new for you and of course show you this. So until we meet next time, do have a lovely weekend and stay safe. Bye for now.